Okay, big news coming out of the NFL world this morning. And this goes back a long time. I would assume before 2013, but in 2013, Dan Snyder wrote a strongly written statement that said, I will never, ever change the name of the Redskins. I will never, ever do it, basically. So just move on. Then a couple years ago, 2018, I believe, it became another talking point again. And Dan Snyder doubled down and said, I will never, ever, ever change the name. And here we are, July 13th, 2020, and a statement from Dan Snyder's squad this morning via a press release says that they are officially retiring the Washington Redskins name and logo from the NFL. Now, in a press release that had Redskins on it 8 times, I believe, they announced that the commencement of a thorough review of the team's name, the review has begun in earnest. Has begun in earnest?
Oh, that's a guy.
What does that mean? I don't think that is a guy. Ernest goes, does Christmas or something.
Ernest changes a football team.
Ernest changes a football team.
Does that include a new name?
That review has begun in earnest. As a part of this process, we want to keep our sponsors first. By the way, look who's listed first here. We want to keep our sponsors, fans, and community apprised of our thinking as we go forward. Today, we are announcing we will be retiring the Redskins name and logo upon completion of this review. Dan Snyder and Coach Rivera are working closely to develop a new name and design approach that will enhance the standing of our proud, traditional, rich franchise and inspire our sponsors. Look is first again. Sponsors, fans, and community for the next 100 years. Okay, so they've officially said we're getting out of here. Now, a lot of people say this was strictly because FedEx pulled out of official title sponsor of their stadium. Nike started getting rid of merch and everything like that. And I think that's a very fair assumption. We started doing the math, I guess, in 1990 something, 97, late 90s. The Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins, and FedEx got into a stadium sponsorship deal for 27 years or something for $200 some million. Okay. That averages like $7 million a year. It's actually not that big of a hit to the pocketbook to Dan Snyder, especially at this point, if he was to make another move. But whenever you title in that Pepsi said they won't do business and Nike won't do business with them, that is when Dan Snyder had to look at people who are in business with him and rely on him. And then he said, okay, we got to do it. We thought this was never going to happen. A lot of people, I think Redskins fans thought this was never going to happen. Snyder will never give. But now there's an opportunity for the first time in a long time for a brand new franchise name in the NFL. What's that mean? That means new merch. That means new everything. They have to have a new chant, new saying, new logos, new traditions, new everything. And I would assume that there's some Redskins fans of the past that are not pumped up about this. But 5 to 10 years from now, will anybody ever think this was a bad decision? No, that is no way. But what are they going to fall on? I guess there's quite a trademark war happening behind closed doors right now. Last night, somebody tweeted from, I think, Sports Business Journal or something like that. They said that this morning they're going to be announcing the new name. And I was pumped up. I'm like, hey, we never get anything announced by the time our show's on, right? Everything's normally like noon. Like we'll have this to talk about. Turns out they are just announcing that they are going to be announcing a new name. It's an announce for an announce, which I respect and appreciate. But the reason why is because they can't announce the name because they have to lock down all the trademarks, all the potential trademarks, everything you could potentially need for merch, slogans, sayings. You saw Tampa Bay get trademarked as soon as Tom was thinking about something. That's what they have to do. And I guess there's a guy named something Macaulay who owns all these trademarks because he's been looking forward to this day when Dan Snyder finally has to move it. And I would assume Dan and this guy are currently going at it for potential trademarks. There's a lot of names being thrown out there. DCFC, the Washington Red Wolves, the Red Tails, the DC Generals. How about the Washington Sentinels? Hello, Shane Falco. Yeah. There's a lot of names out there. Whatever they fall on, some people are going to love, some people are going to hate. I just hope it has a cool song and dance that we can sing along with if they ever actually finally win this whole thing.
The tough thing, I think, for the team is they've been so bad for so long. Now that there's a team change, the name is changing, it's going to give a lot of people in Washington and their fan base an excuse to be like, maybe I just go root for another team and I don't even worry about this team anymore.
Some people some outs. Could give some people some outs. Like those diehards. You know, you think about the season ticket holders that have been there for a long haul. Their entire houses potentially, their game rooms are potentially all maroon or burgundy and whatever it is. You get it. Their entire thing, all the state, they have every jersey. What are they going to do? What are your loyal? See, like the backbone of your business is season ticket holders whenever you're a football team. Now, granted, TV rights, obviously great. But if you want to talk about just your business alone, the season ticket holders are normally the people buying a lot of your merch. They're the people spending the insane amount of money for the tickets each year. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be happy with this. But like I said earlier, 5 to 10 years from now, you look back and be like, oh, probably a good move. Yeah, definitely a good move.
How many guys do you think are on this like committee to do this? Or is it just Dan Snyder who's picking this?
I like to think of Rivera and Snyder just staring each other down a long, long table. Red Wolves. Write it down. And then somebody goes and writes it. Like that is when you're talking about naming your business, okay, naming whatever, that is a very, very high stress thing to do. I mean, there's been numerous times here where we've had to name things and you just give up basically because it is impossible to think of what's the perfect name for this? What summarizes everything we want to represent? What is everything that this is and everything like that? And then you think of a name and then you got one person that's like, but what if, and you're like, well, you're right. We got to write that down. And then it's like somebody else. So it's not an easy process to do that. And I thought the biggest hurdle would be that I think July 10th is when this conversation started. And July 28th is when they're supposed to check into training camp. So that's roughly 18 days that you have to make an entire business move. I thought there was no way they were going to be able to do that. But it turns out they say by the end of this week, the new name should be announced. But right now you're seeing, I guess you're not seeing it. You're actually not seeing it, which is kind of the point I'm making. The things you can't see are lawyers right now going back and forth for trademarks and stuff like that. And it's probably very expensive. I would assume there's some big checks that are getting written because there's people that get on the internet and they just buy up real estate. It's like GoDaddy.com basically set up like a potential gold rush for people. People just started buying up website names and buying up property on the internet. And then when businesses would come, be like, oh yeah, no, sure, just sell the real estate to them. It was just like, that's a business that people have. They have that with trademarks as well. It's just something that happens or people get into that business because they feel like they can foreshadow or think somebody will need this at some point. I mean, I know of like 3 different humans that do that and did that and got broken off and will still get broken off because they still own real estate as businesses continue to come here. And I would assume that Daniel Snyder is learning quickly about that business. Like, oh, this son of a bitch, just give us, how much does he want? Well, he bought it for how much? $150. He wants how much for it? That's good business, baby. Hey, Dan, that's good business, baby.
That's business, baby.
That's business, baby. You got to do what you got to do.
I don't know what the actual number is in terms of like what teams get for merchandise and stuff like that, but do you think teams will be more reliant on that income this year with no fans in the stands, like selling jerseys and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think jersey sales, T-shirt sales, towel sales, flag sales, all that stuff is going to be a rather big push. I assume you're going to see a lot of sales going on. I assume there's going to be a lot of internet, like internet company work that they got going on.
Buy one, half off.
Buy one, get one. Yeah. WWE has one of those like every single week. I would assume that becomes a much bigger focus because they know that the ticketing department's got nothing to do for at least a couple weeks. Or, I don't know, PSG, I guess they had an exhibition over there in France. They had 5,000 people in their stadium. Originally holds 25,000, so 20% capacity. Is that going to be the new benchmark? Is France in a much different place in America? I would assume, but that's at least like kind of happening. The AFL had fans up there, so maybe there'll be a slow roll back in there, but I think the NFL has to at least think that the first couple of weeks are going to be rough.
Yeah, there was a report, I believe it came out on Friday or Friday late, that the Jaguars were expecting like 15,000 people or something like that if they are allowed to have fans this season.
But you got to remember, Roger Penske said that the Indy 500 will run in August with half capacity, which is 175,000 people. All right, got to get to a break.